Because there's a big difference between being a tourist and being an immigrant or an expat. And if you come out here living like a tourist and you don't have money to sustain a tourism lifestyle, you're gonna get burnt and you're gonna end up having to go back. This video is how do you sustain yourself living overseas, or whether that's Africa or anywhere else. Somebody's watching, somebody watching my videos and they looking at all the YouTubers out here trying to figure out how are they sustaining. So let me just give you the breakdown. Really, all of this information is in my course. I have an 8-module course. The module 8 is the travel and migration module, and it's a 3-hour straight long video of me breaking everything down about travel and migration, but I'm going to give you a portion of it today. So here's the 3 to 4 different types of people who migrate, right? Who move out of the country that they from and then settle somewhere else. And in the first video I just broke down what's an expat versus a repat, right? So if you want to break that down, go watch that. I had somebody ask the question, how do y'all sustain yourselves financially overseas? So I just want to answer that. First off, you kind of got to identify who you are, what your resources are. Some people that you watch on YouTube are actually true expats. They've been traveling for a while to work, and they've been going to different countries for jobs, and then eventually, and they had the income set up first, and eventually they just start kind of documenting their life. For example, like the most traditional way that this is done is that you apply for a job overseas, you have all your credentials, you send it, they hire you, then they send for you. They pay for your plane tickets, they arrange visas, and then when you come over, they arrange housing, you have your job set up, you have your pay set up, they give you a trip home once a year or twice a year. And that's the traditional way. My mother did this before she moved to China. And she got a job in the United States, in China from the United States, got her visa set up. She left, she went to China, she worked, when my mother's a teacher, she worked as a teacher. And, and then eventually, that job was over. She came back, she actually stayed with me in Egypt for some time. My mother worked there. She was living the life of an expat, somebody who leaves their country to go somewhere else to work, right? And then let's say if she would have just started recording her life, or being a tourist in the country because she had money, right? She had money because she had a job lined up before she left. Then she starts doing videos and taking pictures and all of that. So let's say she start posting that on YouTube, then you would say, oh, look, how are you sustaining yourself? Because she's a true expat. She already have an income lined up. Now, what's the other option? Because with all of the options, there are visas, like the government has something in place to accommodate that type of move or that type of immigrant, right? So an expat typically is not an immigrant in the sense that they come in to move and assimilate into culture long term. It's more of they're here for a job or whatever. Now there's another type of visa you can get, which is retirement. This is another one of the most common types of visas and types of expats that exist. These people are typically over 50, a lot of times over 60 is the rule. The government will allow you, if you have a pension, if you're over a certain age, to move to their country and live, and they'll give you a visa long term. So there's a lot of people in Africa, moving to Africa, that fall under that retirement visa. So when you see the older people, that's most of the time what they're doing. They kind of already have a pension, they kind of meet the age requirements, and that works for them. As long as they have, in different countries, the number is different, but typically from $600 a month to $1,000 a month is pretty much what you need by these countries for them to let you get a retirement visa. Okay, or you can do, that's another one, I'm gonna get into that. So when you see the older people, a lot of times that's what they doing. They moving in on retirement visas, and that works for them. But for somebody like myself in my low 30s, I can't get a retirement visa even if I got an income, right? So that option is not available for me. So if you're not 60 years old with a pension, that option ain't available for you. So if you're watching somebody that's 60 years old out here on a retirement visa in a pension, you can't replicate that model. You can't follow their example. You need to find somebody who kind of like fits your example. And this is why I did my course, because it's a lot of people who have the interest in leaving or moving to another country, but they don't know how to financially sustain themselves. So then you have another form of retirement, which is basically if you have ownership. And a lot of countries have this. Most countries have this. If you can bring 50,000 American dollars or the equivalent of 50,000 American dollars and or buy land in that country of a certain amount, and this is some type of investment visa a lot of times, then you can get a long-term residence visa because you're an investor in the country. Most countries have this. If you got money, 50 grand is the rule in a lot of European countries. It was the rule in Ecuador when I was there. You can basically get a long-term residence visa, and a lot of times in some countries you can even get dual citizenship after so many years of being on your residence visa. You know, which is basically like having a green card in the States, being able to be a true immigrant and getting a national ID. Once you got that national ID, you can get credit, bank loans, you can get treated like a local. That's like a national ID in the United States is a social security number. So after some time of, once you go through the immigration process for the United States, you can get a green card and a social security number, which means you're allowed to work and pay taxes. So the same thing, if you got money, you can pretty much go anywhere in the world, invest in their country, either in land or you can put 50 grand in a cash deposit, and you can migrate to their country legally and get a long-term residence visa. But again, here, I'm not doing that here. I've done that nowhere. And I don't know if any of the YouTubers that you watching out here have done that. Now, I saw a few repats do that. I saw a few, but again, they were older. Like, yeah, people with 401ks, that's what they doing. People who got retirement money, like the whole thing, that's what they doing. So even if you don't fit the specific retirement visa, this is what I say, people who are early retirees can get that investment retirement type visa, to where as long as they got guap, as long as they got a 401k or a big retirement account, then it works for them. They can come out in the country and bring their big money, and they can get a long-term residence visa, because the country know that you're not coming to live off the country, and the country don't have to take care of you. You actually going to be contributing to the country. That's really what all countries are trying to like sustain and kind of maintain. Same thing in the United States. The biggest part of immigrating to the United States is financial feasibility. Will you come over and have to get on welfare and food stamps, or are you going to come to the country and contribute financially? They want you to come and increase the GDP, not take away from it. So that's that. If you don't fit that criteria, you don't have a 401k, you don't have a retirement account with over 50 grand in it, then you probably shouldn't watch people who live in that type of life. A lot of other people, especially women, they come over here and they marry rich, or they marry somebody who's well off and sustained over here, and they just get their visa through that. A lot of men do it too. They come over, they marry, they have their resources, and they get their immigration through the person that they're marrying. That's an option. Again, for me, that's not what I did. So what's left? All right, so what's left is what the majority of people you're seeing do is, whether they have an income or not, what we doing is, some countries, the rules are different. This is why I like Egypt so much, because I could go to Egypt with any amount of money. I can stay as long as I want, and technically not really, but I can, because the way the system is set up is I can come, and this is what I did every time. First time I came to Egypt, I overstayed my visa by 1.5 years. When it was time to leave, I just went to the airport, and before I could get on the plane, I had to stop off at the immigration. I had to pay my fine, which is maybe $200 or so, and I left. Same thing when I came back the second, third, and fourth time. I never worry about going to immigration, because the fees are reasonable enough to where I can just overstay the visa, live, get I don't need residence or anything. Like the people who renting you the house, they don't care about your visa. They just want the money, because the people just want your foreign money. And then when it's time, I got people staring at me over here. But when it's time for me to leave, then I just go to the airport. I pay my fine for overstay. Basically, for every 3 months, there's a certain amount of money you got to pay. I pay my fine and I go. That's it. Now, in this country, it's a little different. The fine for overstaying your visa is $600. So I have to actually follow the rules here because it's not as flexible as it is in Egypt. And most countries that I've been to are not as flexible. That's why I didn't stay in Ecuador when really that was my favorite country. The rules are just not as flexible. So, okay, so here, what's the deal? Well, unless you got that investment visa or that retirement visa, a work permit, or like you coming in on a true expat type situation, then you coming in as a tourist. You coming in on a tourist visa. You got 90 days as an American on that first tourist visa, and then you got to leave. And then you got to leave and come back to get another 90 days, because when you come in, you get a year. But every 90 days you got to leave and come back. Or you can extend your visa up to 4 times before you got to leave for the first time, right? So that's what most of us do. We come in, we get the 90 days. After 90 days, we go to immigration. We extend it for 30 days. 30 days later, we extend it for 30 days. 30 days later, we extend it for 30 days. 30 days later, we extend it for 30 days. The next 30 days, we have to leave and come back and do it all again, right? And then after a year, we got to pay that visa fee, that entry fee at the customs. So that's how it works. So now the question is, how do you sustain financially? Well, that varies from person to person. Some people, they move out here just to figure it out. Most people are coming out, they just taking a trip just to kind of see what life is like. Well, that's the reason for my channel. I want you to be able to know, and I want to be able to show you this place and everything about it and give you all the knowledge you need to know without taking a trip just to see, just to get the information, because you can come and not even get the information, to be honest, because you don't really know where to look and how to ask, because it's your first time and you're going to be so focused on just surviving that you're really not going to have the time to get the knowledge you need, because your money going to be running out so fast because you're living like a tourist. So I'm hoping that my channel helps people to avoid, because there's a big difference between being a tourist and being an immigrant or an expat. And if you come out here living like a tourist and you don't have money to sustain a tourism lifestyle, you're going to get burnt and you're going to end up having to go back. So what you're seeing on a lot of these YouTubers' channel is lifestyle vlogging. You're seeing people who are showing the country from the perspective of a tourist, and the restaurants they eat in at, the things that they doing, that's not real life every day. That's tourism. That's why it looks so glamorous. But on the day-to-day life, that's not how life is. And if you want to sustain a life like that, you better have money. Like a lot of money, because it's expensive living like a tourist in these countries. So my channel is not a lifestyle vlog. I'm not here to show you the glamorous sides of this country. That's not why I'm here. I'm here to help people who actually want to migrate see what it's like without having to spend their money first. And if you ask a question or you say, hey, what about this, what about that, I'll do a video for you and show it to you so you can see it with your own eyes, and so you can know for yourself without having to spend the money, right? So how have I been able to do it? Well, in 2010, I moved to Egypt and I pioneered it. I survived. I even faced homelessness a couple times, being out there, going house to house, living amongst other, we had like a little community of people. And I tell you, when you get amongst people, people show their real colors once you start like getting amongst people. So I've been, man, I've had some stories, maybe I tell them on other videos, but I faced homelessness a couple times in a foreign country, but I was 20 years old and I was living this adventurous life. I was trying to figure out how to live outside of the country. And I started with nothing. So this is why I say, if you take my course, you'll understand. And I'll tell you my personal stories in the course that I just don't have the time to tell you here, because that course is like 16 hours long, 8 modules, average 2 hours per module. So, and eventually over time, I'll teach you the things on this channel over the next year or so. But, so I figured it out for myself, So if you're trying to figure it out, right, it's a couple options you have. But I'm telling you, like a lot of the people you watching on YouTube, they've been YouTubing for so long that they make money from YouTubing. They actually are lifestyle vloggers, and they have enough subscribers to where they actually make just enough money to live outside of the country. And to be honest with you, a lot of people don't make a whole lot of money. Even YouTubers with thousands of subscribers, right, 100,000 subscribers, everybody don't make a whole lot of money, because the first bit of success I had, years ago when I was in Egypt was the same thing. I used to make money off the internet blogging. So I know exactly how much money they're making per click, per CPM, because I am an internet marketer. this is what I've been doing for 10 years, running ads to sales funnels and conversion, getting conversions and making sales, and or using traffic and converting traffic into dollars. I've been doing this since 2011. Really, I made my first sale online in 2008. So I've been an internet marketer since 2008. So I know exactly how much these YouTubers making, and it's not what you're thinking. You know, these lifestyle vloggers are making it seem like that they doing so much, and that's why everybody come out here and they start a YouTube channel, because they think that after a few months of doing YouTube, I'm gonna be making money, and that YouTube channel will be able to sustain you financially, and it's not. So if your plan is to come out to any country and create a YouTube channel to make money, you're going to be rudely awakened. You're gonna have a bad experience. It's not gonna work. Like, I don't make this YouTube channel for money. I don't need money from YouTube. You know, so I just want you to understand that you better have your income situation set up first. So listen to people on how, if they don't tell you, you need to kind of read between the lines to figure out what they're doing. But I'm gonna tell you from my personal situation, I've had a business running for over 10 years, and that's what allows me to travel the world, because I have a remote business, I have employees, and I have offices, and I have a business running that I can use to actually sustain myself on these different moves. And then I also have multiple income streams with different skills and knowledge and abilities and side hustles that allow me to generate cash at will. So I can take the money regardless of where it's coming from, and I can sustain my life. And then I can do YouTube as a hobby to help people. I don't do YouTube to make money. I do YouTube as a hobby to help people, because I do have a lot of people interested in my life. I do have a lot of people who have questions for me all the time. So now, instead of having to have long individual conversations with people, I can just say, hey, watch my video on it, or take my course on it. And I don't have to spend the time over and over and over with all these different people. So what I always tell people is, you need to find out before you move out of the country, you need to establish an online income. And if you could just figure out how to make $500 to $1,000 a month while you're in the States, and then stack up 3 to 5 grand, you can move. You can leave, and then you can nurture your small, really it's not even a business, it's self-employment. You can nurture whatever you're doing for self-employment. And then once you get here, you can live on your savings and you get established. Once you get established with your savings, then your $500 to $1,000 a month is enough to actually live. Now, if you got a pension, then it's the same thing. People can come with $800 to $1,000 a month, and as long as they got a little bit saved up, they can get established, buy furniture, get a nice affordable home, and then they got enough money to eat and pay their bills and sustain and do a little bit of tourism here and there. So I'm hoping I'm making it clear. Somebody asks, how do they sustain themselves? Not everybody who on YouTube making money from YouTube. I'm gonna tell you about maybe 5%, 2% or less are actually making money from YouTube. For every 100 YouTubers that you're watching out here, maybe 1 or 2 of them are actually getting paid from YouTube, enough to actually sustain themselves. Other people, even YouTubers, they have businesses. They have some kind of employment, self-employment, or some kind of business going on, including myself. So I hope this helps, because you need to learn and identify how you're gonna take care of yourself once you get here, if that's what you're trying to do. And this is why I'm really putting my focus on my channel on business and developing this country, because there are no jobs. When I was in Egypt, there used to be jobs, and the jobs typically all centered around the fact that we spoke English. We were native English speakers, so you could work in call centers or you can work in schools. That was the jobs available. You could do private lessons, or you got to take your skills and make a business out of it. I got a brother I can do an interview with soon. He trains dogs, and he's killing it right now in Egypt because he's a dog trainer, and it's a huge middle class out there. It's a lot of people with families and dogs, and and nice places to stay, and they got extra disposable income to pay for dog training. And it's enough people with disposable income to where he can make a business for himself by training animals. So you need to really figure out what's your skills, your abilities, what do you know how to do that's of value that you can charge somebody for. Whether that's online or on the land, and you may need to pick a place strategic for what you do. I'm a jeweler as one of my side hustles and one of the skills and abilities that I have. This is why Tanzania was on top of the list. The 3 countries that I wanted to move to in Africa, all of them had mining sectors. It was particularly, the country that I moved to had to have gold and gemstones. It was necessary because That's the industry that I was in before I moved to Africa. This is the skill that I have. So I need to move to a country that can facilitate what I do, right? So I don't know what you do, but you need to pick a country based on what you do, not based on what some YouTuber is showing you. Even for me, this country may not be for you. And I have a lot of Africans and Tanzanians telling me this country may not be for me because of this and that. Again, this country is absolutely for me for what I'm trying to accomplish. Everything else that I wish was different, in time, I will be able to change and influence. And I'll be able to adapt to those things. But the most important thing is, how do I take care of myself and my family? That's first. So I need to go somewhere where there's opportunity. And here the best opportunity was for me. So this is why I picked this place. It was Ghana, Tanzania, Kenya. And I landed on Tanzania, right? So I don't know for you what your skills and abilities are, or whether you have a pension or retirement or 401k. But that's the options for moving and immigrating to a country if you don't have an income, or if you do have a limited income, or you got savings and you're trying to figure out how to make it stretch. You need to have some kind of income set up, or you need to figure out a communal situation where you, 5, 6, 7 other people can come together, get a large house like myself. Everybody maybe save $3,000 or $4,000, and all of y'all can contribute $100 a month to sustaining that house. And then y'all can come together to figure out how can y'all build something or invest in something that can pay y'all as a group to sustain y'all lifestyle. There's many strategies. Again, all of this stuff is in my course, so you don't have to just kind of try to extrapolate the information out of a 20-minute video here and there. It's all compact and condensed, straight to the point. I got presentation, PowerPoint presentation with bullet points, going through all of the modules on how to start a business from scratch, from idea generation to using your skills and abilities to marketing to growing and expanding and scaling. And then that last module is how do you actually move and sustain? It's 3 hours on just straight sitting down talking to you like I'm talking to you now on how to move and sustain a move. And all my personal experiences, my personal stories are all in there. A lot of that stuff I would never put on YouTube. So if you actually want to know my personal stories, get my course. It's in there. It's only $47. So yeah, I hope this answers the question on how are people sustaining these moves, because what you'll notice is a lot of people that come out and they start these YouTube channels, 3 to 6 months later, they not in that country no more. You have to really pay attention. They leave because why? They thought YouTube was going to pay for it, and it doesn't. So they had a rude awakening and they got to leave and go back. So a lot of channels, I just, before I even came to Africa, I noticed I was watching certain people's channels and then the channel stopped making videos, or they start making videos back from the United States and they talking about Africa and they no longer live there. So I'm like, what kind of crap is this? Like, these people act like they're experts on Africa and they moved there for 6 months and left, and now they got a whole channel still talking about Africa. It don't make sense. To me, they're hypocrites. So I don't want you to follow people who don't live what they're talking about. They need to practice what they preach. And the reason why they can't is because they're not telling you the whole truth about how to sustain yourself here, because they don't know how to sustain themselves. They thought YouTube was going to do it. So if your idea is to come out here and start a YouTube channel, I'm telling you now, 95% or more of people who got YouTube channels are not making money from YouTube. That's it. Agent Expat signing off.